unfortunately, despite the fact that it's, I guess, about 18 months old, there's still more than I guess. There's too many people in New York that still have no idea what's in the SAFE Act. They continue to support it, but they have not even a beginning of a comprehension of the abuses that it could result in because they let other people do their thinking for them. So the first thing I want to do tonight is to sincerely congratulate all of you for your desire to become informed and to not let other people, and specifically maybe among that, significantly among them, is the media. Because the media is thinking for too many Americans right now. The governor of New York recently said something that I've heard a lot of bad things in 42 years of law enforcement, but I never thought I would hear from the governor of our state that if we don't think like him, there's no place for us. Yeah. If those aren't the words of a tyrant, I don't know what are.
Amen.
It's become increasingly clear that we have too many other elected officials that feel that same way. And to refer once again to one of my coaches, Bud Schroeder, I think he was responsible for recently sending this quote. It's a little bit paraphrased, but that both diapers and politicians need to be changed regularly. For the same reason. I guess I got to clean up a little bit because eventually they all soil themselves, but certainly there are some exceptions to that. In early 2013, Erie County, like 51 of New York's other 62 counties, passed a resolution calling for the repeal of the SAFE Act. So 52 counties in New York State have sent a message to Albany. I got 52 of the 62 calling for the repeal of the SAFE Act. And it still hasn't come to pass. But the day that that happened in Erie County, two of Erie County legislators stood up and argued against that resolution, saying, and this is an exact quote that came from the mouths of both of them, that don't you understand, it doesn't matter what we do, Albany is going to do what Albany wants to do. It went pretty much unnoticed, despite the fact that the media was there. But if that statement, again, if it doesn't matter what we do, we in Erie County, it doesn't matter what we or 51 of the counties do, Albany is going to do what it wants to do, is a declaration that democracy no longer exists in New York State. It's a declaration that the Constitution no longer matters, and probably even more strongly worded in New York State Constitution, in the Civil Rights section of our Constitution, it makes an even bolder statement that, again, that if we accept that statement as being true, that it doesn't matter what we do, Albany is going to do what Albany wants to do. Despite, again, the implications of that statement and the presence of the media, the liberal media, that was present in that room when that was said, despite me being spitting bad when we got the vote that we wanted, and went on the hall and repeated, do you understand what you just heard? No word of that has ever been printed in the media. We have to wonder why. It may be equally shocking is that it just might have been an accurate statement. It doesn't matter. But at least for the current state of affairs. But I believe that there's something that we can do about it. If we can continue to work with the people in this room, the seeds that are out there to change America, I believe it can be changed, again, beyond just New York State, it can be changed across the country. But it has to be changed. And maybe an indication of that possibility is that one of those two legislators was voted out in the next election cycle. At the same time, the other legislator that maybe was the first to make that comment resigned from her position but was appointed to a much higher position by appointment of the governor. Earlier this year, the governor of New York suggested that inmates should get free college educations. He doesn't realize that our children, my children, will not pay off their college loans until my grandchildren are in college. But maybe it's the governor's plan that our grandchildren, if they don't comply with the SAFE Act, will be convicted felons by that time and they might get a free college. It might also be this governor's plan to keep us so broke that we'll have to sell our guns at one of the government sanction gun buybacks, because we can't otherwise lawfully dispose of them without the state's permission and the purchaser paying a mandatory state fee. So really, these are things in the SAFE Act that too many people don't realize, including grandparents that don't realize they can't pass their guns on to their grandchildren without, again, the state's permission and the payment of a fee. I make it a habit of regularly, I know some of you know that, regularly visiting gun shows, and I go in uniform like I'm here tonight because I'm trying to convey something that's very important to me, is that law enforcement officers are not the enemy of gun owners.
That's right.
Politicians and Russ clearly are, but law enforcement, again, regardless of the uniform, those individuals that are in those uniforms are not our enemies, and we please try to keep that in mind. I know I've been contacted by law enforcement officers in every agency, federal, state, county, local agencies, thanking me and other law enforcement officers for standing up for what we believe in. But again, regardless of the uniform and who it is that they're getting their direction from, the things that they're in their heart, they need help, they need understanding. Sometimes they need some enlightenment, but let's all continue to work on that. And anyone that doesn't know what's in the SAFE Act, to make sure that we're all on the same page. The officers share your same concern that you do for freedom and for liberty. Just a few months ago, 2 of our Erie County deputies were responding to a domestic complaint. And upon arriving in front of the house, the windshields of both of those patrol cars were shattered by rifle fire. And throughout that night, about a 12-hour siege, the SAFE Act was discussed and denounced throughout the night. And again, by every officer that was there, at the end of that situation was resolved without injury to the individual that was responsible for doing the shooting. But I had an opportunity, obviously, to speak with the 2 deputies involved and ask how they felt about it. Both of those deputies said before this incident they were opposed to the SAFE Act. You should be happy to know that following this incident, following their windshields and almost being killed, both of those deputies continue to feel the same way. They have not an ounce of support for the SAFE Act, and they recognize nothing in the SAFE Act could have prevented them from going through what they went through. I'll note the individual responsible for that last week pled guilty to 2 counts of attempted murder. He's still awaiting sentencing, but I feel that given the current state of affairs in New York State and the faulty parole practices that are being used here, that the individual could actually be released from jail before the younger of those 2 deputies is even eligible for retirement. That's how bad things are in the operation, from the operation end of law enforcement in New York State. In July of 2013, I was at a New York State Sheriff's Conference in upstate, further in the Adirondack part of this, up by Watertown. And there was a speaker there from New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services, and he told the sheriffs, and thought we were a welcoming audience, I guess, but he told us that since the passage of the SAFE Act, and it had been about 6 months then, that the state had received more than 7,000 referrals because of the mandated portion of the mental health portion of the SAFE Act that said that if a mental health provider encountered an individual that might possibly be a danger to himself or others, they had to report that information to Albany. And in response to questions of one of the sheriffs, that spokesperson acknowledged that of the more than 7,000 referrals, only 67 of them had pistol permits. Now, that probably doesn't bother gun owners, but what that should mean is that all those other people that think this is only about people that own guns, that they realize that 7,000 people have had their mental health records released outside the mental health profession to target pistol permit holders. We then asked, of the 67 pistol permit holders, how many pistol permits have been revoked? We couldn't get that answer. I came back to my friends at Scope, telling them, you got to tap into this. They've been chasing that now for more than a year. At this point, I understand it's in a lawsuit stage. New York State refuses to share that information, how many of these records. We're not asking who the people are. How many of those records, how many referrals have now been made? How many of them were pistol permit holders? And again, how many pistol permits, what good has come from any of this? But again, we're far less than 1% that even had pistol permits, significantly less than 1%. So for this invasion of privacy what good has come from it? And it's clearly, it can't possibly sustain, I'm not a lawyer, but it can't possibly sustain that level of goodness for government, good things happening out of that level of invasion of privacy. We also have to be shocked by the irony of this. As pistol permit holders, you could ensure that your personal information was not released to the public if you submitted an opt-out form. But at the same time, the state won't even tell us, the residents of the state, how many people have registered guns under the new law, or answer questions by very professional and good and well-intended people, how many pistol permits have been revoked, or how many individuals have been identified as possessing firearms that are a danger to themselves and others as a result of this invasion of privacy under your mental health. Actually, something that encourages people to not seek mental health treatment when they need it. We have to ask ourselves, who's in a better position to know what makes us safe, right? The people of the state and the law enforcement officers, both of us, all of us, that are at risk daily, or politicians, as we heard, that are passing legislation without even reading it. But still, after all this time, after the Senate and the Assembly hearings that have been held since this time, still no change, not even an indication of a willingness to change. Back in 2013, I wanted to know. I mean, I was tired of reading other people's statistics. I figured you got to give me some good information. To anyone pursuing a graduate degree, or his children or friends that are pursuing it, I can't think of a better subject for someone to take up and try to study for a doctoral thesis than to find out who is committing crimes in America, or who's committing crimes in New York with firearms. Now, intuitively, we'd all guess that we know that. And I thought I knew, but I said to the people in our jail, I want every statistic you can give me on the last 10 people, no sorting, I want to know the last 10 people that have been brought into the Erie County Jail on any kind of a weapon offense. It took a couple weeks for them to get the information. We don't have a lot of money to spend on that kind of study. But what I found out is 9 of those 10 people that were brought into the Erie County Jail for a weapons offense had not yet reached their 23rd birthday. The one exception to that was a 40-year-old individual who came in on a domestic violence complaint, and the weapon used in that domestic violence was not a firearm. But of the 90%, the 9 of the 10, less than 23, 6 of those 9 had already committed and been convicted of a violent felony in New York State. The shocking part of this is, and what really tells the story, is they had to be 16, we know that, they were 16 at the time they were charged. They have not yet reached their 23rd birthday. Why are they back on the streets committing more crimes? We're back to the parole practices in New York State. We've been complaining about this for years. We're not getting anywhere with it, but New York is safer, and it was safer at one period of time with an earlier governor when we had violent criminals, and we were keeping them in jail. New York is bragging that the population of their jails are down. I'm going to get sidetracked for a second, try to get back to my notes, but you have to also ask yourself this. Our country throughout history, I don't know if we have a speaker from the military, has protected the liberties and liberated other countries and assisted them to continue with their newfound liberty by doing what? By arming them. So while the United States is arming people around the world to ensure their liberties in their country, what are they doing to us and why? Why are they disarming our own people while arming people in other countries? Because they're third world countries and that somehow makes a difference to the protection of their liberties? I think that time probably brings for the end, but I want to end with something I did back in January, because I've never heard better words than this. But it's a quote from the legendary Clint Eastwood, and I doubt that we could argue all night and agree on what his greatest movie was. But I think we would agree that in almost any Clint Eastwood movie, the good guys with guns always got control and righted the situation with the bad guys that were using guns. That's probably been the one common theme in almost every Eastwood movie. But Mr. Eastwood was reflecting on his life, and he wrote down some things that he wanted to be remembered for. It seems so appropriate for night, but he wrote, and these were his words, "As I enjoy my twilight years, I am often struck by the inevitability that the party must someday end. Someday there will be no more, there will be a clear, cold morning when there just isn't any more. No more hugs, no more special moments to celebrate together, no more phone calls just to chat. It seems to me that one of the important things for us to do before that moment occurs is to let every one of your family and your friends know that you care for them by finding simple ways to let them know your heartfelt beliefs and the guiding principles of your life, so that they can always say, he was my friend and I knew where he stood. Well, just in case I'm gone tomorrow, please know this. Clint Eastwood's words. He went off and had a bit of a tirade about the current occupant of the White House, but then he came back to saying, and this is the part that I want to press with you, participating in a gun buyback program because you think that criminals have too many guns is like having yourself castrated because your neighbors have too many kids.